GW4XSX in the group GW3UZS.
GW3UZS in the group from GW4XSX. Oh, well. No, well, I didn't oversleep. I slept late this morning, so I didn't get to go on 20 metres, and I come straight on to 2 metre Chepstow. And so I haven't even listened on 20 metres this morning. But I'm using my other radio at the moment, the 901 lineup, and I haven't even bothered to switch on the Mark V. So there we are. And I didn't get to bed until, I don't know, half past 12, I think it was, something like that. Chris and the girls had a night, they didn't have a night out, they had a night in somebody's garden. So you can imagine they were very joyful when I picked her up at about 11:45. So there we are. Anyway, a good time was had by all. So I didn't get to bed very early, so I'm feeling a bit tatchy this morning. Over to you, Glyn, from GW4XSX.
From GW0JI, thank you, Mike. Well, Jeff, you're actually hitting about 30 over 9, anything between 10 and 30 over 9. Mike, you've come up now to 10 or 15 over, 10 or 15 over 9, so conditions up and down, but not dropping very low. I think, Mike, the worst you've been on this one is about F8, but 100% copy. So there we are. And had Jeff find on the physio yesterday, and you've been a bit shattered, or you are running around. It does tire, doesn't it? No doubt about that. And the well-brook loop. Loops, I think that, it's horses for courses, isn't it? I think that loops, especially on the lower frequencies, they can't be as good as a full-size aerial, obviously. They're just not going to be. I suppose if people are unlucky enough not to have the space to put up a good-sized aerial, well, they're an answer. And I suppose they have the advantage you can turn them to where you want them. You know, you can the directional. So if you can find a way of turning the thing, I suppose that's an advantage. But it's still not going to beat a good lump of wire up in the air, is it? There's no doubt about that. On the higher bands, I would imagine, because they're nearer to what they should be, I suppose. Whereas down here, they're quite a bit of a compromise, aren't they? I'd be very interested in claims over the years I've come across in books about a horizontal loop with the conductor being about 6 inches diameter on 80 meters and only about 3 foot above the ground. I think is it a full wave or a half wave loop, horizontal loop, and the conductor about 3 foot above the ground or thereabouts, and the conductor in 6 inches diameter. Well, that's not going to be easy to make, but I did wonder about this stainless steel flexible flue pipe. A piece of that sort of sitting on suitable insulating stands and worked against earth. I wonder. You never know, but it'd be expensive to buy that stuff anyway. It's not cheap. Don't worry about being early, Jeff. Nobody's there. Mike or me have usually got HF on when we're on 2 meters. So if we hear you on, or anybody else, if we come to that, we usually come over. So that's it. And Mike, so you let the girls out last night. So you had a full old day yesterday, or at least Chris did. What with visitors, family during the day, and then an evening out. So there we are. So I wonder who's the most shattered this morning, her or you? Will it go back to you, Jeff, from GW0JI?
Yeah, fine. No sign of anyone else, but it's a bit early, I suppose. All okay. And okay about, I know the loop you're referring to, something called the DDR antenna. DDR, Delta Radio. And you need a large diameter, about 6 or a foot or whatever above ground, in a circle. I can't remember what the radius and it is calling me, so I got to go. Back to you, Mike.
Yes, okay, Jeff, we'll talk to you in a few minutes if you manage to get back, but if you don't, well, have a good day. Give my regards to Enid. Over to you, Glyn, over.
Yeah, okay there, Mike, yeah, and okay there, Jeff, understand, and we'll leave pauses for you in case you can make it back. You probably can, we'll see anyway. Okay, yeah, fine, Mike. And yeah, this DDR loop, that's the animal. Jeff had got the right name for it, a DDR loop. I don't know if you've ever come across it, but basically it's horizontal loop at low level. And I can't really remember now. I could get the book out in a minute. Maybe is it half-wave loop or is it a full-wave loop? But it's essential that the diameter of the conductor be very, very large. Excuse me. In other words, you'd want something like 6-inch or foot diameter metal pipe going round in a loop. So it's a ginormous thing, but it's supposed to, it's claimed anyway, that it works as well as a dipole up at a quarter wave up in the air. So there we are, Mike. I don't know if you ever come across that in all the literature. Go ahead.
No, I think the best antenna I've heard anybody use, and I'll tell you, I think it outperforms the quad and sorry, I got my printer going. It's nice to know that it'll actually work, but it's printing all sorts of rubbish. So that's not so good, is it? That's costly on paper. What was I talking about? Oh yeah, it is. I can't think of the name of it now. I know Roy uses it in Australia, and it goes right round his property. Come on, give me the name, over.
Is it the rhombic?
Yeah, you've disappeared almost completely on me, Glenn. Yeah, the rhombic. I think that's got to be about one of the best aerials, because even when conditions are really poor, I can still hear him, and he comes in at around about S9. Unbelievable, over.
There we are. Conditions are funny this morning. Mike, you're disappearing up and down, but I'm copying every word from you. So there we are. Yeah, well, the rhombic, I did throw one up one time for 40 meters. But it wasn't a true rhombic in as much as I couldn't get the exact shape to get it right. But I believe they are very, very good if you get the space to put them. Very, very good. In fact, a rhombic for 80 or top band would be a lovely aerial to have. And if you've got the real estate to put one on, well, there we are. A very good aerial. But like I say, the one I put up was a bit of a compromise, really, in as much as it wasn't a true rhombic. The shape wasn't quite correct, so there we are. Okay, back on to the mic, and we'll leave a pause for Jeff or anybody else who wants to come in on the net. From GW0JI.
2W0EDW.
Yeah, I can hear you, David, but only just about. Why is it so quiet? Hang on, it might be because I got the volume turned down a bit. But because Jeff his audio so strong, I turned the volume down a little bit. Perhaps that was it. Anyway, a very good morning to you. Take it over and then give it round to Glyn, over.
GW4UEP.
Yeah, morning, Ken.
Morning, Ken. Yes, I've got you in the log, GW4UEP, and it'll come to you next with Mike's blessing. So, good morning to you there, Ken. Good morning, Mike, and good morning, Glenn. And yes, we'll leave a pause for Jeff and see if he comes back. Okay, yeah, well, not much to say about the weather. It's blowing nicely, westerly, and I think it's more or less stopped raining. There is a clearance on the horizon, so it's going to get better as the day goes on. So this is 2W0EDW, with your permission, Mike, on to GW4UEP. Take it
back, Mike.
Ken, over.
Okay, Jeff.
Yeah, okay, Jeff. Ken has just come on, and David's just come on. So, Ken, have you taken over? Put it to me, and I'll put it back to Jeff. Go ahead, Ken.
0CBB.
Okay, well, we heard you. Good morning, everybody. It's raining in Newport at the moment, but it's not a good day at all. So, how's everybody this morning? Okay, Mike, and Glenn, and Jeff. Very good signals indeed. But
David is down in strength, but apart from that, it's okay. So it's over to Glenn from Golf Whiskey 4 UEP.
Okay, thank you, Ken. You're 10 over 9. David, you're about S7, disappearing down to about S2 or 3. But I copied most of what you were saying anyway. Okay, with your permission, Jeff, I'll put it on to Will, and then he can put it back to you. Take it, Will, CBD.
Yeah, GW0JI on the group, MW0CBD. Good morning, all. I'm not sure who's there altogether. But gradually I'll get round to them, there's no doubt about it. Wet morning here. It's been raining, but it has stopped now, but it's very overcast. So that's the WX situation here. Everybody's signals seem to be quite strong so far. So I'm not sure. Oh, yeah, you told me to pass it back to Jeff. GW3UZS, MW0CBD on the group.
Yeah, fine, Will. Very good morning. Florida. And your nice signal, 5-9. David, you're not that strong either. You can. About 5-8 with me tonight, this morning rather. But no problem, copy. And sorry about that interruption. Had to disappear. I got this alarm system that works, and at last I'm getting it to press the green button sort of thing. I just couldn't get her to press the button. She'd shout and what have you, but I couldn't get her to remember that she had this thing around her neck to press the alarm when I wanted, sort of thing. But slowly she's beginning to remember that she's got it. There we are. Got her off the bike now, and she's been on there nearly, 25 minutes or nearly half an hour, I suppose. So she's a bit shattered now, but that's good. Fine, all okay on the weather there, and down in Tedrath, Ken? Yeah, it's not much better. Well, it's not better in Cardiff. It's raining quite heavy at the moment, actually. Sort of very fine drizzle it is, but quite heavy. So, not good today. Lovely day yesterday, though. Anyway, that's enough from me. It's back to you, Mike, I think. I'm sorry I got interrupted earlier. I can't remember what we were saying. So it's over to you, Mike. And then I think you put it to David, and was it Ken, and then Glyn, and then Will. That's the way it went last round anyway. GW4XSX in the group. You can be in charge, Mike. GW3UZS.
No, negative. You're in charge, Jeff. You've got the extra stripes. So you're in charge. From GW4XSX. Morning, Will. Good morning to you, Ken. Ken, you're a lovely signal with me this morning. And but David, you're quite weak. But I'm hoping you'll be better on the next over any road. But it's been quite wet during the night, so we've had a fair bit of rain. I hope it knows when to stop. That's the problem. Anyway, over to you, David, from GW4XSX.
Yes, thank you, Mike. Good morning, Ken. Good morning, Will. And yes, I'll try to speak a little bit louder. That might help. But you'll have to turn your volume up for me, perhaps, Mike. So never mind. Yes, I'm not sure. I think I put it on to Ken next, so I'll put it back to you anyway, and keep things keep you in charge there, Mike. Okay. Yes, it seems to be clearing out to the horizon a couple of times here. It's not raining much anymore, and it looks a bit brighter out there to the west, and it's all coming in from the Atlantic these days. Strong gusts of fronts and showers of rain and so forth. Anyway, so with that, it's back to you there, Mike. GW4XSX from 2W0.
It's over to Ken.
Yeah, go ahead, Ken.
Okay, very good. And yes, David is a bit down with me this morning. And you, Mike, as it happens. But I can hear her okay, but no problem there. Yes, okay. Well, my granddaughter, Carrie Warby, she's out in Oslo and playing golf for Great Britain and Ireland. She's only 14, but she should have gone Monday night, but the flight was cancelled, so they no practice, so that's it. It's over to who, I don't know. I don't know whoever takes it from Golf Whiskey 4 UEP.
Take it, Glenn.
Okay, thank you, Jeff. Thank you there, Ken. Ken, you had a lovely signal with me this morning, no worries at all. Everybody's drifting up and down, but you're well above the noise you are, Ken. David, you were up a little bit on that one. And well, morning to you. I haven't even given you a report yet. You're 5 and 8 with no trouble at all on the last one. And yeah, Jeff, what we were talking about was the DDR loop, weren't we? That's what we were talking about when you were called away. The DDR loop, and I was explaining to Mike what it was. And but like I say, you've got to have some fair diameter pipe to be able to build one of those. Wouldn't it be lovely if you could get one built in 6-inch copper pipe? That'd be lovely, wouldn't it? And well, look, we've all got the wet weather. Oh, it looks as if it stopped raining here, and the forecast says that it should be dry here by 11, and it's brightening up out there. So we'll hope for the best anyway. Ken, find on the granddaughter and the golf, and I think you said the flight was postponed or delayed, I should say. So she didn't get any practice out there on an island. Oh, there we are. Very, very, very nice, and let's hope she's enjoying herself out there anyway. Right, with that, it's on to you then, Will, isn't it? From GW0JI, and then back to Jeff.
Yeah, GW0JI on the group, MW0CBD. Conditions are very, very varied this morning. Everybody seems to be up and down quite a bit from what I can make out. Darby, I lost you for part of your over there on the last one. And then you came back up again. Ken, you're between 5 and 5 and 5 and 7. Glenn, you're about 5 and 5. And Jeff is 5 and 9. Well, I'm not sure about Mike. So that's the signal reports to here anyway. And of course my signal reports are usually down to compare with the others, as far as that goes. But as I said, the WX is wet, but let's hope that it will clear up later on there. We can't live without rain. That's the funny part about it. We've got to have water, haven't we? But let's hope it stays reasonable. And the show is on, of course. Wonder what it's going to be like in that area, because they spent a lot of money redoing the main ring there. Whether if they get a test on it today or not, or how much of a test is another thing. That remains to be seen. So I don't think there's much more news from this end. So let's see how it goes. Where does it go for me? Back to Jeff, I believe. I'm not certain. I think I've got a GW3. Oh dear, use it as MW0CBD. Oh, good to hear that Andy is getting round to using the equipment you just set up there, Jeff. Over.
Yeah, okay, fine. GW3, use it as fine copy, no problem at all. I'm just wondering why something's not right here at the moment. Can't work out why. Oh yes, I know. But I should be able to hear that on... Oh, that's odd. Not normally like that. Anyway. Yeah. I've got through this controller now. I can put the loop on as well, you see, and I know why. I'm not on the same frequency even. So let's synchronize the receiver. There we are. That's what was wrong. I've got effectively two receivers here through the software, all built in sort of thing into the software. And I can put the loop on one and the main antenna on the other one, and I can monitor on either one. So with some switching. And the loop is live now with when I transmit then on this one, it doesn't make the power supply gets disconnected anyway automatically in the control unit. Okay, Ken, about the granddaughter there, and she's into golf, I think you said. But the weather is not all that good at the moment, is it? Fine, Will. Copy Q5. But all signals seem to be down a bit this morning, but Q5, no problem. Yeah, the DDR, I've thought about that many times in the past, Glyn. DDR, but getting hold of quite large diameter copper pipe would be cost a fortune. That sort of diameter. And you need to bend it or get it into a circle. I can't remember what the radiuses were now, but it was quite large radius. About a foot or so above ground, if I remember. But I can't see us building one of those. So you hear about that, like the K9AYs. They've got two of those up at right angles to each other, and I'm not impressed. But it's understandable maybe because there's too many wires around. They're in the middle of the main 80-meter loop anyway. So maybe that's the reason that doesn't work. Maybe in the clear they would do okay. But there we are. What was I going to say? Okay, Mike, and okay, Chris, a bit late home last night, and late on you getting to bed. Well, you didn't miss anything on 20, I don't think. Anyway, I'll sign on the next over, but I'll go round once more and leave it at that. Over to you, Mike. Then it goes to David, Ken, Glyn, and Will. GW4XSX in the group GW3 UZS.
GW3 UZS and the group from GW4XSX. Yeah, well, I heard Enid. I heard that signal you've got coming from Enid when she pressed it, Jeff. So it's obviously working very well, and I'm glad she's realising that she can get hold of you in a short space of time. That's good, isn't it? Excellent. And I wonder how she's getting on with that arm movement machine you've done for her. I wonder how that's working, if she's managing that. Anyway, I think you'll probably be going anyway, but there we go. Anyway, have a good day. I'll have one more over, and then I'm going to go as well. So anyway, with that, over to you, David, from GW4XSX.
Yeah, thank you, Mike. Yes, okay. Yeah, well, yes, the possible alarm there that you worked for, and it worked very well because I heard it too, so it seemed to be quite loud. Do you carry the receiver around with you? I expect you do. This is a two-way job, Jeff, or is it just the one way from her to you? Interesting. Anyway, it sounds like it's nice and loud at your end. Good. Yes, I'm looking forward to a clearance here. The forecast is that it's going to clear by midday. I'm looking forward to that. And, I don't know. I'm playing snooker this afternoon, so I shall think of you there, Mike. We better not say any more about snooker, but it's got to be a definite date soon. Otherwise, we'll be geriatric and past it. I'm nearly am already, but there we are. You keep going and I'll be all right. I'll keep up somehow. Okay, good signals all around. I don't know what the problem is this morning. I have to check my SWR. I'm at the top of the readout here. I am creating a little bit of SWR, so I've got to check that and see if I can get out a better signal. So I'll do that on the next before the next over. So with that, back to you, Ken. GW4 UEP from 2W0 EDW, over.
Thank you, David. Yes, it's clearing up down here in Newport at the moment. So it's look forward to later on clearing up. But it's not a very good day, is it? Okay, I'll make this my final, if you don't mind, and we'll catch you tomorrow. So it's over to Jeff, I think, from Golf Whiskey 4 UEP.
Good to you, Glenn.
Yeah, thank you, Jeff, and cheers to you there, Ken. Have a good day. We look forward to the next one. Jeff, I've got the book in front of me. The DDRR antenna is the true name of it. DDR it normally goes as, but DDRR. Wait a minute, what does that stand for? Directional Discontinuity Ring Radiator. DDRR. And for this band, the diameter of the loop would be 18 feet. The diameter of the tubing would be 4 inches. The height above ground would be 24 inches. The capacitor required working against Earth would be 100 picofarad. And the gap in the loop would be 7 inches. And the feed point would be 6 inches away from the gap. So there we are. So it's not an unmanageable thing. It's just the diameter of the pipe, 4-inch pipe. And in this book they claim it could be made out of steel pipe, and it would work just as well. But obviously copper would be better. But even so, 4-inch diameter pipe is a little bit unmanageable. If you go to 40 meters, a 9-foot diameter loop, 3-inch diameter pipe, now you get more manageable. And the height above ground is 11 inches. The capacitor is 70 picofarad. The gap in the ring is 5 inches, and the feed point is 6 inches from the gap. So there we are. So from 40 meters upward, it's quite a manageable thing. But from there on down, it's just a little bit big, isn't it, for us mere mortals to make. So there we are. Anyway, that's enough of waffle on that one. Round here there, oh goodness me, my mind's gone. Round here there, Will, from GW0JI.
Yeah, GW0JI on the group, MW0CBD. Well, your signal has come up no end now, Mike, Glenn. I think the conditions are changing, must be. Because Mike and David were earlier on, Mike went almost out and David did go out. And the signals the conditions must be very, very variable here. And because Jeff was quite strong, and well, Jeff was the strongest anyway. And you're the next one to him now. So that's again, what is it? It's DDRM, what is it? I gather that it's some form of loop antenna, and it's quite a big pipe as far as I can make out from what you're saying there, Glenn. Quite a heavy pipe. Well, quite big in diameter. So there must be getting some stuff to roll that track would be quite a job. Anyway, that's enough on that one. We'll gradually hear more about it in time, as they say. So very interesting project there for somebody who's no doubt about it. Okay, then it's on to you, Jeff. 73 to you, Mike and Ken. GW3E was an S, MW0CBD?
Yeah, fine. GW3 UZS for a final, then I'm making this one a final. Yeah, all okay, and okay on the information there, Glyn. I couldn't remember. I remember I've looked at it many times over the years, thinking what could I do with this, but whether it would be worth the effort, I doubt it. Because if that was the only antenna, say, on a flat ground now in the clear, then it might be a good thing, but I don't think it'll be worth the effort, really. And the same with the K9AYs. They claim to be quite good low noise, say 160, but I'm not seeing that at the moment to improve on the noise floor that I've got. And the main problem, with diversity, I've got a facility for diversity receiving here because I've got 2 synchronized receivers. And whilst that does work to a certain extent, and if you've got a particular, let's say I happen to be on top of a very noisy switch mode power supply spur or whatever, say on this frequency, then I could null it out quite easily. But nulling the floor noise out, which is the main problem, is the floor noise is so high, which is right across the band really, then that's not so easily done. So whatever you have, you've got problems. There we are. Okay, Mike, fine on everything from you, and I don't know when band conditions, the A index is down to about 70 today, but I don't know whether we're at the bottom of the cycle or starting to climb out of it. I don't know. But anyway, I probably won't see more than one peak again. I wonder. So we'll have to wait and see on that. And the announcement this morning that all diesel and petrol cars they won't be allowed to be sold after 2040, I think. No diesel cars or petrol cars after 2040 announced it or proposed some sort of consultation document or something. So I wonder what we'll have. But maybe they'll come up with improved battery technology, possibly. That's probably the route, or some other fuel of some kind, I don't know. But there we are. Anyway, a final from me, but listening round, and you did ask me something, Mike. What did you ask me just now, and I should reply to? Whether Enid's getting on. Yeah, well, I've made this, I got hold of a small, was it a 14-inch wheel bike, quite a small bike, and I took the front off it, and I've arranged the pedals to have a handle instead of flat 4 feet, of course, and she uses that, and she's been on it about 3 or 4 times now since I've done it. I'm getting on all right with it, really. She needs a special grip to hold her hand on it, but she's using it. So hopefully that'll improve things with time. So not a lot else to report then. If I remember, I sent you a photograph of it. And you can see what it is. I attached it really to this cart that I made for the caravan, which is no longer required. And I made an attachment onto that, and it goes on as an attachment. So I just pushed that up in front of the wheelchair and put some elastic straps, what they call them, these elastic hooks thing, to hold it in place, and it works. There we are. That's enough from me. Over to you, Mike, and then I'm closing other than listening round. 73 all Boreda. GW4XSX in the group GW3UZS.
Well, Jeff, GW3UZS and the group from GW4XSX. Oh, that's great, and I'm glad she's managing to use it. And let's hope it'll improve the movement in that arm. Any help is good, isn't it? There we are. Anyway, you have a good day, Jeff. And, fine on the aerials. Well, I was saying to Glyn about the rhombic. I was saying about Roy, in Australia. He uses that rhombic, which is around his property, isn't it? And my goodness, there could be very little on the band, and he's 5 and 9. Tremendous antenna that is, isn't it? It outperformed the quad he had as well, because we tried that one morning, and it was the rhombic was much better than the quad. It might have been conditions, I don't know. But there we are. And then somebody was saying about the rain. Well, rain before 7, clear by 11, isn't it? That's the saying. Whether that works or not, I don't know. But there we are. Anyway, have a good day all. Keep your powder dry. We're shopping today. Enjoy your snooker today, David. David, we will get together very, very soon and have a game of snooker and put the worlds to rights as we normally do. So there we are. Anyway, that's not good news about the cars, but I don't think it's going to worry any of us, I don't think. We'll be long gone, I think. So I don't have to get rid of my diesel car. There we go. Anyway, I think they're going to have a lot of trouble on their hands. Never mind. Anyway, who do I put it to now? I'm round to you, David, isn't it? So with that, I'll listen one round, but I won't come back. From GW4XSX, and very good morning to you, Will, and to you, Ken. I'm not sure whether I said good morning. Anyway, I think Ken's gone anyway. Round to you, David, from GW4XSX. Bye, Glenn.
Yes, good night.
Bye, Mike.
Yes, okay, Mike.
Oh, bye, Will.
And, well, they're not going to make me get rid of my Land Rover. It'll last forever, the way it's going. I just gave it a facelift this last weekend, a good wash, and a little bit of a polish up, and so she's looking, well, not brand new, but next best thing, and so she's going to last forever. But I won't, of course. But she'll still be here. She'll be all right on the farm, even if they do stop them on the road. I can keep travelling around, and it's too useful to do without. Carries all my wood and that sort of thing, and yes, and gets me about as well. Because I used to have a quad bike for shepherding, but I don't need that sort of attention anymore. But the Land Rover does do the job as well if I need to. So there we are. Okay, right, well, it's time for me to move as well. A little bit of office work this morning in the rain. They'll be going out, but it should clear by 11, like you said. And I'm sure it will. So with that, thanks for the shout there this morning, gentlemen, and we'll catch you again tomorrow morning, all well. And it's on to you there, Ken. GW4 UZS, UEP, I'm sorry. And if you're still there, Ken, I'm not sure whether you signed or not, so apologies for that. So over to you, Ken. Over.
Yeah, Ken is signed, I think. Just check. You there, Ken? No, Ken is signed. Okay, David, and okay, everybody else. Well, last things, this about diesel and petrol cars. The way I heard it this morning was that they won't be selling new ones after 2040. So you've got a long, long time. That's 22 years away, isn't it? So 22 and a half years away. If you've already got a diesel or a petrol car, well, that's okay, but they won't be selling new ones. And hopefully by then battery technology will come up dramatically, so we will all be on electric cars or hydrogen-powered cars, fuel cells and things like that, you know. So to my mind, in many ways, it's a very, very good thing because, you know, when you put a date on something like that, it does encourage people to get under the research and get things going, you know, so it'll get things moving. And I'm certain that if we'd have run out of oil 20 years ago, we would still be driving our cars around powered by something else. But because the oil was plentiful, there was no need to do the research, so nobody bothered, did they? And I believe that the Chinese and Japanese are well ahead of us on battery technology. So let's hope this will encourage more research into batteries. So there we are. Anyway, like I say, it ain't going to affect us too much, is it? I'm certain it's not going to affect me anyway. What else? Well, the rain has started again. I said it was drying, but the rain has started again, so we shall see. Well, just going back to that DDRR loop, what it is, well, I'll give you the dimensions for 80 meters. It's a loop that is 18 feet diameter. It's only 2 foot above ground, horizontal. So it's a horizontal loop, 2 foot above ground, and the pipe you need to make it is 4 inches diameter. That's basically it. So it's just the size of the pipe that is a bit unmanageable. The rest of it, I mean, isn't bad at all. You could have it sitting up on wooden stakes or plastic stakes or something, just about 2 foot above ground. And they're supposed to work very, very well, but I'll reserve judgment on that till I've maybe tried one. But to make one for 20 meters, that is quite manageable because it's only 4.5 feet diameter and 1 inch tube and 6 inches above ground. Well, I say 6 inches above ground, 6 inches above the ground plane. If you want to think of it that way. So in other words, if you mounted it a little bit higher, so 3 foot up, and a chicken wire ground plane 6 inches below it, it'd be well worth building one just to try, because like I say, that is a manageable diameter, isn't it? And then you feed it against earth, and there's a capacitor to earth. All the information's here in the book anyway. And I believe it's been going for years, but a little bit on the unmanageable on the lower bands. Right, that's it from me, so I think, well, it's round to you to tie the ribbons, isn't it? From GW0JI. Good morning to all shortwave listeners.
Yeah, GW0JI, MW0CBD, returning. David, you came up to solid 5 or 9 on that last over. I don't know if you paid your electricity bill or what, I don't know, but you came up to solid 5 or 9. No problem whatsoever. And Glyn, you've come up as well. So conditions are on the change by the looks of it again. Yes, I think I got the measurement of that one. Is it 18 feet in diameter? By golly, it's a wide one, isn't it? If I'm correct on that one. But it seems to be a very interesting one as far as that goes. It's not high or anything. But again, it depends on location where you are, perhaps, as far as that goes. Okay, we'll leave it at that for this morning. Interesting indeed, that DDR antenna. Right, I've got to go down and get something to drink because my throat is getting dry. So I'll say 73s all round. And 73s to all our listeners. This is MW0CBD listening before closing. Over.
Yeah, cheers, Will. You look after that throat and go and get yourself a drink. Regards to Phyllis there, and we look forward to maybe talking to you again tomorrow morning. And cheers all. GW0JI. Just listening briefly, and if nobody's there, I'm going to make a cup of tea. Cheers all.
Cheers, Lynn.
Antenna. So if I'd had a decent beam up, it probably would have.
S5, S7 mark. So yeah.
Which is mainly I'm mainly using it for SOTA activation.
Yes, oh, excuse me. Bit of a frog in the throat there. I've got a note in my paper here and I can't read it, which is so frustrating. That's really annoying.
But there we are, and then I think we've got a few weeks in August where we're fairly
locked up in the sea as well. And you imagine the quantity of water there is on the Earth, and there is quite a considerable quantity of CO2 locked up in that. And I think that tends to stabilize the quantities in the atmosphere. But electronic equipment recycling, they do recycle that at our local tip, and I've seen what they do with it as well. There's a compound which you can dump your TVs and electronic equipment, and every now and again they take them on a huge lorry separately, and they extract the gold from the circuit boards by some chemical methods, I believe. I'm not exactly sure what dissolves gold, but there is something apparently. Perhaps Peter will know something about that. But the tiny quantities of gold on the printed circuit boards, they extract that. I think they probably put the rest of it into landfill. It's quite interesting what they used to do with the waste from the semiconductor industry. I mean, my brother has always worked in that, and he told me once that all the devices that fail, which is quite a lot of stuff, and it's horrible bits of silicon and plastic. It's not really recyclable. That they put it in roads. They use it to tarmac roads basically with it. So I don't know whether they still do that, but that's what happened to that particular waste from that factory at that time. But I wonder whether Peter knows anything about extracting gold from circuit boards. MW0GYV in the group, G0GFR.
It's called the cyanide gold extraction method, and yes, it uses cyanide, so it's very, very dangerous, very poisonous, because gold doesn't dissolve in acid. So yeah, interesting. I've lost my face. Oh yeah, chalk and limestone. What about all the carbon dioxide tied up in the rocks? Just take chalk and limestone as an example. It's all over the world, and there's mountains made of it. Himalayas, I believe, is made of limestone, isn't it? I know you can find fossilized shells on the top of Mount Everest, so there's an awful lot of carbon dioxide locked away. Gaia, I think I pseudo believe in Gaia. James Lovelock and all that. Anyway, there we go. So after our conversation about scanning electron microscopes, I'm sorry I forced that, but I got all, what's the word, whimsical, what's the word, yearning for the old days. So I started looking it up, and I was trying to remember what type of one I bought, and when I was at Boots. And then I thought, oh, hang on a minute, and I went on the internet, and I started researching where I used to work, because it's no longer operated by Boots, because Boots were taken over by several people, lots of people took over Boots, and it's gotten very complicated because it's all about money really, and basically what they did, this company got bought, Boots was sold to some guy who then sold it onto somebody else, who then sold it onto somebody else, and so forth and so on. And the company I work for, well, we were called Merchandise Technical Services, and then that was merged with their quality department at Beeston, and they moved on to our site at Wilford Road it was. And I think they changed it to PQD, Product Quality Department. I mean, they spent a bloody fortune. And then one day, this company was bought by this funny guy, and Colbert, I've looked up on the internet now, Colbert, Kravis Roberts, and Stefano Pacina, whoever the hell they were, and they moved the headquarters to Switzerland. I mean, it's just unbelievable. And then Walgreens bought them a bit later on. But one of the first things they did was to close this quality department down because it was costing money. They couldn't see the point of it. And I think they literally, because I've seen pictures, you get these people who go into derelict buildings or closed up mines and factories and power stations and take pictures, post them on the internet. And they did that with where I was working. And there's one of the pictures which shows part of my scanning electron microscope, which cost £65,000. I mean, it's a long time ago now, because we're talking a long time ago, but it's a lot of money. It cost like 150 quid just for the filament, because you have to be able to change all these things, and they have to be quite specially made. I mean, a very expensive piece of kit. And that was just one of them. There was also the gas chromatograph on the side, and the infrared machines, and all the special test equipment. It looked like somebody walked in, announced that all the plant was, that people were going to be finished and moved off site, collect your stuff and leave, because there was still stuff on the benches and so forth, and we always kept a very tidy lab. But interesting stuff that. But they didn't recycle anything of that, and now it was flattened, and I think they made it into posh apartments. It's fairly close to the city centre of Nottingham. But they also did the same thing to what was originally their headquarters in Nottingham in Station Street. And that was a wonderful old building, and we shared it with the town. But that was also sold off and made into flats, just for money. Everything's driven by money these days, isn't it? So there we go. So how much chalk and limestone is in the world, and how much carbon dioxide is in there, Dave? And do you believe in Gaia? M0SPZ, MW0GYV.
Yeah, Roger, MW0GYV, G0GSR, M0SPZ returning. Yes, I don't know about believe. I don't really believe in anything, but I appreciate the theory of Gaia and think that it's probably right. I can't prove it. For me to believe in something is, but I don't quite like the word believe, because it sort of insinuates that you understand and I was going to say believe something without the proof. So I'm not really sure that I like the word belief, but I certainly have an appreciation for Gaia. And this guy Lovelock, he invented some really, really clever way of measuring, now what was it, the ozone, or the lack of it, and also invented another gadget. I think it was some sort of electron balance or something, and an absolutely incredible mind. He had a different way of looking at things. He also established ways of telling whether there was life on other planets by the atmosphere. I can't remember exactly all the details about that, but he's certainly worth a read if you Google him or find him on Wikipedia or something. James Lovelock, and some of the stuff that he invented and the thoughts that he had were really quite incredible. Okay, about the scanning electron microscope, it's the sort of thing that our friend Photo Induction might get hold of and put a few thousand amps across it or something, see what he does. We haven't heard much from him lately, have we? But I think you said that he may have gone and found himself another wife, Frank. By the way, the difference, because I don't know whether you're monitoring yourself on Hackgreen as well as G4 FPH, but the difference on your last transmission on those two websites was chalk and cheese. Really, really different. I could hardly see your signal at all at Hackgreen, Frank, and yet you were booming in on the G4 FPH one. So it never ceases to amaze us, the difference between those two. Right, so back to you then, Frank. G0GSR in the group, M0SPZ.
Yeah, okay, Dave, just had a quick listening on the frequency then, G0GSR. Yeah, it's only 27 kilometres between the two of them. But it does seem like there is quite a cut-off, doesn't there, in signal strength? Instead of a gradual reduction with distance, there does seem to be quite a sharp cut-off, which is quite surprising, isn't it? Going back to CO2 just for a second, and yes, there is a lot tied up in chemically in rocks. But I think the point about the world's oceans is it's dynamic. The amount of CO2 that the oceans can absorb is dynamic, and they can act like a huge sink for CO2, or they can even give up the CO2 under some circumstances. So it tends to have a regulatory effect on the amount of CO2. But James Lovelock, I've made a little box around him on my pad. I'll have a little look about him afterwards. But when Peter was talking about his scanning electron microscope, I thought he's probably found one on eBay and bought it. Buy it now, and get it home and think, oh my God, what the hell am I going to do with this now? But it's interesting about the actual operation of the thing, and the filaments had to be replaced, Peter. And I suppose you couldn't just replace the whole thing. It would make sense to replace the bits that burnt out or lost emission. In fact, that used to be quite common in the very first days of broadcasting. The very first transmitters they made for the Empire service from the BBC, the valves they had there were replaceable. You could take them apart and bolt a new filament on, or a new grid, or a new anode, and then you could re-evacuate them again before use. In fact, they were constantly pumped. They were not sealed devices like modern valves are. You had to constantly evacuate them, so you could actually replace a faulty filament or a melted grid or something if necessary, and repair the damn thing. But where are we? I think I've covered most things on my little pad here, so you haven't got an electron microscope, Peter. That's a great shame. I know you mentioned you had got a binocular microscope. I often thought I'd like one of those. At one time I was looking quite seriously about buying one, but they're just a little bit expensive just for occasional use. MW0GYV in the group, G0GSR.
No, they're brilliant. Stereo binocular microscope. They're quite useful as well. So if you get a splinter in your finger when you're cutting your grass or doing some work, you can find your splinters and get them out easy. Stuff, silly things like that. But they're also useful for people who can't see very well, like me, so you can do your surface mounts and stuff. But I use it a lot, obviously, professionally, so it did travel around with me. I've had it for years and years and years. I knew somebody who worked for the company that supplied them. They didn't actually make them, because Instruments it was. But there we go. Yeah, you can think of a scanning electron microscope a bit like it's a bit like a oscilloscope tube, like the cathode ray tube, really. Instead of a glass, though, it's a metal container, and you could take it all apart. I mean, you had to take it apart in order to keep it clean and to make sure it's correctly adjusted and so forth and so on, and change the filaments and what have you. So they don't last forever. You had to also operate with a very hard vacuum inside it. Sometimes I was doing work on organic materials, and of course, as soon as you start to bombard the sample, it would start to gas, and then the vacuum would become soft, and that didn't. And of course, then also you would deposit stuff inside the tube, and also maybe on the filament, and that used to make not do it very much good. But it was also important work that we were doing. So what? I always had a couple of spare filaments. It's amazing, what you really needed. Spares were really expensive, and this is really weird and spooky. Guess who was born in 26th of July 1919, Frank?
Go on, Peter. I've no idea.
You've been talking about James Lovelock was born this day, 1919. He's 98 years of age. Can you actually believe that?
Is he still around, Peter?
According to Wikipedia, he was born that day and he's 98, so it's his birthday today. So there's something really weird happening. Don't you agree, Dave? M0SBZ MW0GYV.
No. I don't believe in anything like coincidences or anything like that. I think, or rather, I do believe in coincidences. I don't believe there's any sort of no weird stuff going on. Just pure coincidence. But it is an interesting coincidence because it's why did we start talking about it? I can't remember now. I think we were talking about outgassing of volcanoes or something, weren't we? Anyhow, but an interesting coincidence, Peter. As regards to lab equipment, we had some wonderful stuff, and it's when Delco shut down, it was really sad because I didn't get my fingers on all the equipment I should have done. At that time, I didn't realise I was going to take up amateur radio as a hobby, and the only thing I came away with was a trio digital storage scope, one of the first ones out there, absolutely huge. It's only good for audio work, but it's a nice two-beam scope, but its bandwidth is extremely limited, and that's about the only thing that I managed to salvage. Other people came away with Nagra tape recorders and beautiful microphones and Roden Schwartz RFI equipment, all for nothing. They were just dumping it, and it would have been so good for now for me to have some of that, especially some of that Roden Schwartz RF equipment would have been worth a small fortune. Okay, well, the only other thing I've got to say, Frank, is I hope that I'm not going to even whistle that tune. I was going to do something really mean to you the other day. I was going to send you an email with an MP3 of me whistling that tune that you couldn't get out of your head the other day. But hopefully it's disappeared now. G0GSR in the group, M0SPZ.
It's just about disappeared, Dave, but it took some doing. I did listen to other stuff, but it didn't work. It was very, very persistent. I don't know. Yeah, test gear. It really is a shame what used to happen to test gear as well. I used to buy a lot of test gear and specify it, etc., and decide what got replaced. And when we used to recall all the test gear, it all used to come back to our central maintenance base at Daventry, and it just used to sit there and rot. And quite often, you know, I would try to get a system in place whereby this could be sold. I really wanted to start selling it on eBay, you know, officially through the company, but they just wouldn't have it. And all this lovely test gear that was still, you know, most of it was still working. It didn't quite meet the current spec for accuracy, but, you know, for amateurs it would have been absolutely incredible. All the spectrum analyzers and goodness knows what. We had a stack of them, and they were downstairs in the cellar, and they were just getting rotten and being infested by spiders and things. It was a real shame that I was just banging my head against the wall trying to get this stuff released onto the market. But the company was just not interested at all. In fact, in one of my budgets for the new analyzers that I bought, I actually included the disposal of the old equipment. But when it came around to doing it, they just couldn't do it. There was just no mechanism to sell this equipment, and they just seemed completely incapable of setting something up. So it just rotted, which is a real shame. But your electron microscope, Peter, I'm quite interested in the science behind these things. You mentioned the hard vacuum, and I can see that what could happen to reduce that during measurements. But what was used to produce the hard vacuum, in addition to the mechanical pump? I wonder whether there was a molecular pump, because I find those absolutely fascinating as well. I came across those in some mercury arc rectifiers we had at work. They had a mechanical pump and an ion pump in series to get the last down to the last hardness of vacuum. I can't remember the units, the measured vacuum, you know, but I'm sure you know, Peter. MW0GYV in the group, G0GSR.
Gosh, you're asking too many questions of my brain now. It's too far back. I would really have to start looking it up, and then of course my brain seems to remember stuff, but I can't remember offhand. I know it was a fairly complicated system, and incidentally I also have used a transmission electron microscope, which uses even more high voltage, and is even more expensive. So that actually fires a beam through samples. Beam of electrons through samples, but no, I can't remember. I know it was very critical, the vacuum, and there are all sorts of interlocks to prevent you operating it if the vacuum was too high, as in, you know, not sufficiently low enough vacuum. There we go. The picture on the internet I found actually shows it's kind of the head unit, and it was actually an X-ray detector unit that I bought separately. And on top of it, it's a huge. It looks like it's actually a vacuum flask to contain the liquid nitrogen that we have to, because we have to operate the detector in liquid nitrogen. And initially, I used to go to another one of the boot sites every couple of 3 days to go and collect the flask full of liquid nitrogen, half of which ended up at home to play with. No, it didn't, but I used to do all sorts of stuff with it. And it was great fun, very interesting. So, yeah, talking about, you know, when places close down and the way stuff is just scrapped, really, companies can't, well, it's just too much trouble and too much expense. So when they closed our production site at Swansea, I was there shortly afterwards to get some documents officially signed and stamped, and there was only our accountant left on the site. I was quite lucky in that respect. But they scrapped a very, very unique rolling mill. Huge thing. We'd only refurbished it about 5 years before. We spent two or 4 million pounds refurbishing it. And on the production lines, we used to measure the thickness of the materials, metal and plastic materials, continuously by measuring absorption of radiation. So we used to have radiation sources which were extremely dangerous, and they didn't know what to do with them because nobody else wants them, and the company that supplied them had long since gone out of business. So if you knew anybody that wanted a cobalt radiation source with a half-life, I think it was 87,000 years, I know where there is one. God, it's ridiculous. It's not in my garage, by the way. I wouldn't have it anywhere near the place. M0SBZ MW0GYV.
Yeah, Roger. MW0GYV with G0GSR, M0SBZ returning. Well, that's interesting. When I was at the school, we had radiation sources. We had alpha emitters, obviously, and beta emitters, and gamma stuff as well. And it was all very, very haphazard in terms of the precautions that you had to use. Now, these things were nowhere near as strong as the ones that they use for sensing thicknesses of metals and so on. But the gamma source was quite significant. You could pick up gamma radiation through several millimeters of lead plate. So it was. But the thing that I was going to say, getting rid of it was a real problem. Nobody wanted to know. If you phoned up anybody in the disposal industry, I've got some radiation sources I want to get rid of, they say, oh no, we don't do that. We'll chuck away your oil and your paper and maybe one or two chemicals, but we're not interested in anything to do with radiation. And in the end, I got a feeling that we had to get in touch with the Atomic Authority. I forget what they're called now. Is it Harwell? I didn't do it. The actual physics professor did, in order to safely dispose of this stuff. And there was a fluid. I forget what it was called. Now I'm going to say this word, but I might be making it up. I think it was called protactinium. Now, I might have dreamt that name, but basically it was a liquid, and if you shook it and mixed it up, it actually emitted alpha radiation, and but with a very, very short half-life. Within just a couple of hours, it had all settled down again. But if you shook it up again, it produced this radiation. I'm sure it was called something like protactinium. And they used to use it for measuring radioactive decays and explaining exponential decay rates and things like that. And that was a nightmare to get rid of as well. We said, look, we've got a bottle of this stuff, and they said, oh, I hope it's not in a plastic container. And we said, oh, yes, it is. And they said, oh, you must put that in, immediately into a big glass trough, and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And eventually somebody I assume from the Atomic Energy Authority, or one of these people, came and collected this stuff and disposed of it. Whether he chucked it in the hedgerow on the way home, or actually took it back to his place of work, I don't know. Now why were we talking about nitrogen? Can't remember. But nitrogen, I saw a program, I think it was, what was the bloke's name that was on the driving program? Jeremy Clarkson, and he was experiencing breathing nitrogen, and he reckoned it was quite a nice experience and quite a nice way to die, because you become delirious and don't know what's going on, and so you die with a smile on your face. And also the physics, the chemistry technician said that they used to where we worked before, they used to transport liquid nitrogen And one day that somebody got in a lift with several other people, and they had a flask of liquid nitrogen, and it was all sort of coming out of the top, as it were, like the horror movies, the mist. And by the time they got out of the lift, they were all a bit woozy. And so, liquid nitrogen can be quite dangerous in terms of excluding oxygen and shouldn't be opened in small spaces, etc., etc. Right, okay, so coming up to coffee time. So round to you, Frank, and let's see how we go. G0GSR in the group, M0SPZ.
Yeah, okay, Dave, G0GSR. I just had a quick look at protactinium, and it is an element, and it is radioactive, but it's implying that it's a solid, at least a room temperature anyway. And it has a half-life of 32,760 years. That's very nearly a binary number, isn't it? It's very nearly 2 to the 8. Something like that, 232768. So never mind, that's irrelevant, isn't it? Yeah, nitrogen's interesting stuff, isn't it? And I never realised that, but of course it is just excluding the oxygen. It's not doing anything to you per se, is it? We used to use quite a bit of nitrogen to pressurise various things, and it's a good gas to do that because it doesn't leak too much, does it? And that's why you can have it put in your tyres, isn't it? That it doesn't leak out very well. We used to use it in the feeders too.
From Bridport down to Weymouth the other day, and got stuck in Abbotsbury, and we were behind.
So I said, come and have a look, come and have a play tomorrow.
And I had to cut one or two of those back. So there we are. Anyhow, a lot of us on, so I'm going to pass it back to John because I'm not sure who else I'd pass it to. So it goes back to M3VRB in the group G0UYN. Over to Dennis, M0RLO.
Yeah, thank you, John. M3VRB, M0RLO, and good morning to you, Paul, G8IUG. Glad to see you made it this morning. Yeah, the other thing that, while we were talking about films, George came in on there, about being careful. The other thing I object to is the continuity. When they finish the scene one day and then they come back to it the next week and have another go at the next bit, they've forgotten all about what it was like. They don't look at the rushes, they just carry on. And I'm like Malcolm, I pick up on these things. Yeah, okay, John, with regard to that chunk of the short bit on that rotator, it certainly is a big piece for an aerial to go on. Was going to ask you, though, if you see a 20-foot one made of that material, which I thought was aluminium, grab it or buy it or something and let me know, and then I can ease my aerial up another 4 feet, which may make a difference. Okay, look on. So I think I'll pass it over to, I thought I'd pass it over to you, John, last time, but you passed it over to me, so it must be Ron. G4DDX from M0RLO.
Yep, I think it is me from G4DDX, and I've been listening to all the different comments, and I don't think I can add to anything really this morning. Maybe the brain isn't working properly, but anyway, good morning, Paul. You did finally announce your existence, so not with the correct call sign, I noticed. But otherwise, signals are going up and down, and everything's damp outside, so quite likely my SWR is perfect because the rig takes care of it automatically without me doing anything. But it is running up by some trees which are now soaking wet, and that invariably will upset the signal that goes out. But never mind. The dead tree is not affecting it. It's still standing, so I don't need to worry about that. I keep trying to think what I'm going to do today, because I've now got a 3/4 of a day that I haven't had in the past. I suppose
Rob Sherwood is meant to be retesting the Flex 6300 because he didn't give it a particularly good report the last time he tested it, and so I'll wait to see what his...
They've all got service charges, and they're all open-ended, so you don't know what you're going to be paying this time next year or in 10 years' time. So we just ran away from those very, very quickly.